Hello there, friends. Welcome to another episode of Coffee Convos. I'm Scott Wakefield, lead pastor here at First Christian Church of Greene County, and I am with
Carl Delsorbo.
And we are going to have a Coffee
Convo.
Convo. Awkward pause, look at camera. Coffee Convos is an opportunity for us to have a good convo with some good friends, and Carl Delsorbo is one of our good friends here at First Christian who's an elder, and so we're going to get to know about him today, this evening. Make sure you jump in the comments and let us know you're with us, and editorialize along the way. Make fun of Carl. I was going to say me, but switched to last second there. And ask questions and help steer the conversation. Hopefully it's a good opportunity for all of us to get to know Carl a little bit and to hear about God's work in his life. So first things first, Carl, tell us about the finger.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm notoriously cheap, and and everyone that knows me well knows that. And I decided to bust up an old toilet at home rather than pay to take it to the landfill.
Nice.
And ended up with stitches in my knuckle. So,
how many? How many stitches?
Two stitches.
Did you cry?
No.
Did it hurt?
It did hurt.
Did it?
I almost cried. One tear.
Hey, I'm a bit of a crier. I'm a quick crier. Although COVID has me all stressed and frustrated, so I'm just even-keeled, relatively speaking, for me, which is not that even-keeled during COVID world. So, Carl, tell us about yourself. Tell us how you got to today.
Okay.
Family history, all that good stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I grew up in Buffalo, New York.
That's right.
And son of an immigrant. My dad was off the boat Italian.
Oh, yeah?
And he was one of the few that married an American. And
one of the few
of his
Delsorbos?
siblings. Yeah, he's one of 9. So
wow.
So he married an American, and we grew up in Buffalo, New York, and moved down to North Carolina in high school.
That's right, North Carolina, yeah.
And we didn't really attend church growing up. Families were from very different backgrounds, but I was able to attend a church camp along the way, and accepted Christ in middle school, but really didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Until I got to
I'm
college.
47 and I'm just figuring out what to do with it. What happened when I accepted Jesus? I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah. So, but when I got to college is where that growth really took off. Got involved with a Christian ministry or university Christian fellowship on campus, and met some great group of guys. Faith really took off.
Where'd you go to school?
North Carolina State University.
Wolfpack.
And that's also where I met my bride-to-be, Krista.
Yes.
And she went off to University of Alabama, Birmingham for grad school. And I followed her down there to grad school, and we got married.
Cool. What year did you all get married?
We got married in 95.
95.
December 23rd. This is our
December 23rd.
This is our 25th.
Coming up here.
Yeah, 25th anniversary this
cool.
year. So we, moved here after I graduated. Got a job at what was then Altrista Zinc. Now it's Artisan.
So it was Altrista,
then
Jardin,
and then
now
Artisan.
Okay.
And I've been working there for 23 years. We've had 2 boys along the way.
Yes, indeed.
Jared and Carter. 2 young men now.
Yes, indeed. And one of them
just recently got married, Jared.
Crazy old man. You are old now.
Yes,
you're officially.
I am old.
You're an adult. Congratulations.
I don't feel like an adult.
I know.
So he got married to our beautiful daughter-in-law, Sydney, in September, and
cool.
He's in the Air Force. Proud of him. Carter graduated as well from Tusculum, and he's applying to medical schools right now.
Okay. So that's still his plan, huh?
Yeah.
Cool. I knew that was. That's great.
He's seriously dating as well. So.
Cool.
Interesting.
So, what did you study in undergrad, and are you still doing something relatively close to what you...
Yes, I studied materials science and engineering.
Oh, okay.
And materials engineering in grad school as well. And I kind of still do those things. I'm doing, I'm more in management now at this point, but where we work, we do a lot of metals-based, making pennies and making coins. And
Yes.
So still use some of those skills.
So you alluded to artisan there, making pennies. Am I right that the Artisan's the world's largest producer of penny blanks, or the only?
We are the sole supplier of penny blanks since the late 90s.
Okay.
Our one competitor dropped out in the late 90s.
So you've crushed them along the way.
Yes, we crushed them.
Yes. I want to assume that the only also means the largest in terms of penny blanks.
Yeah, we're the only supplier and we're one of the larger blank suppliers in the world. So we also supply blanks to other countries and Philippines and Indonesia and Brazil, all those various countries. So
things you can't tell us.
Yeah, places we can't tell you. No.
Are there really places like do countries like how does that happen? They just shop around for who to make our coins, and you're one of the options.
Some of the larger mid-sized countries that aren't large enough to support their own currency, but are small enough or large enough at least to have their own minting capability. We supply them the blank, so they're actually minting the coin.
Okay.
But we're supplying the blank that makes the coin. So we're one of the larger in the world. So
and I assume that the coin shortage is good for your business.
Yeah.
It's a good time to be in the blanks business.
Yes. Our Q3 was very good.
Was it?
Cool quarter for us? Yeah.
Good. What's your function in specific terms at work?
I'm over operations, so I have all of the manufacturing and engineering and production planning, those type of responsibilities.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
What is something about Carl Delsorbo that would surprise somebody, or that we may not know?
Mm-hmm. Let's see. A lot of people, because of engineering background, and I'm introverted as my personality, but I've got a pretty sarcastic sense of humor that once people get to know me, they understand. I have to be careful with at times, but can be pretty funny. Also, my wife mentioned, if this came up, she thinks I'm a good dancer, which is
Which
is surprising.
What the what?
Yeah.
Now we're getting somewhere.
That's surprising. I know.
So we won't be dancing tonight.
No, we could demonstrate though.
No, you can't. I mean, get it on.
No.
Cut a rug, as the kids are saying.
No.
In the probably 50s.
Yeah,
the kids probably haven't
50s
said
or
that
60s, somewhere in there.
In 60 to 70 years, maybe. I'm not sure they even said cut a rug in the 70s. So what sorts of dancing are we talking like?
No, I've got decent rhythm, let's put it that way.
If I had known when you came up for Elder recently,
that's why we keep it a secret.
That's funny. That's awesome. You have siblings?
Yes, I have 2 brothers and a sister.
Cool.
1 older brother and 1 younger brother, and then baby sister.
Yeah, cool. So are you, you mentioned being an introvert. How strong an introvert are you?
I was a strong introvert, and I think with age I'm trying to become more of a...
You're trying to.
I'm trying that extrovert. That's why I got involved.
Practicing.
That's why I got involved with guest services, was to try to get out there and be a little bit more likely to say hey to people and jump out there.
And you're another example. I tell people this all the time, and this is only tangentially related to the introvert-extrovert thing, but you mentioned guest services at the Afton campus. I tell people all the time, and I see on Sunday morning, one cool thing about our elders is like they're actually serving. You can watch them, see them serve every Sunday. They're all actively involved doing things. Yeah. Is being married to Krista part of the extroversion?
She's actually an
side?
introvert as well, which
What?
is surprising to most
What?
people. But yes, I know she's the more surprising one. She is definitely an introvert as
So
well.
you're both introverted.
We're both introverts.
Huh. So at night, when you're winding down for the evening, it's just quiet at the Delsorbo home
Yes,
now.
it is quiet. We're getting close to that empty nesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be quiet.
Is Carter still at home?
He is.
Occasionally here and there?
He is in. He graduated. He's taking a year
That's
to
right.
apply for medical schools
That's right.
and whatnot. So he's living with us this
It's a
year.
good time to take off here right now.
Yes, it is.
Between
Yes, it is.
school, yeah. So are you a thinker or a feeler?
Oh, I'm a deep feel. No.
Well, that dancing thing makes me
No.
wonder.
No. I'm definitely a thinker.
You're like mocking feelers, like
Yeah, right.
I'm a deep feeler. Ha, ha, ha. You are sarcastic.
That is
jerk.
the
That
sarcastic
is-
humor coming out right there. Yep. No, I'm a thinker. Definitely a thinker.
Meaning, what? What's that look like for you?
I'm slower to come up with an answer. I like to think through and analyze the situation, and then respond rather than just a quick.
It's not
Hard-
intuitive
yeah.
as like mine is. So you're an engineer.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, all you engineers out there. I don't mean to, just throw you all into this big category of boring thinkers, but I am a feeler for sure. But I was trained as a thinker in the Wakefield household for sure.
Yeah.
And we were constantly, I would say something, and I think my dad and I had about 2 years of fights in high school where I'd say something, and he would just constantly say, "Think before you talk, please." I remember him saying that it had to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Are you a fighter or a peacemaker?
I'd really say I'd probably balance those two. Interesting thing. I don't remember what the personality test this was, but
Yeah.
I ended up as an origin, like 0-0. It was like a XY thing.
Yeah.
And someone said you tend to balance the crowd. So whatever, if a group of strong
Such and such.
peacemakers, and I might go the fighter
Fighter,
route.
because it's needed at the moment.
I go to whatever's needed.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that I do that a lot.
Yeah.
So I'll be optimistic in a group that has a lot of pessimists, and then I'll turn around and be the pessimist in a group of optimists. So
Yeah. Is that also? I do something similar, too, in a situation where it's like, hey, things are healthy and going fine. Cool. Go right ahead. Let's keep going. But if it gets a particular way, and I feel like the preponderance of the conversation has been a certain direction that needs some balance, and I think that's somewhat leadership and caring for a situation. Yeah, that's good. Would you say you are, because you're a dancer, and
I wouldn't call myself
sarcastic?
a dancer.
You're a sarcastic dancer.
Yes.
That's what we're going to call you,
That's
Carl.
what I am.
Sarcastic dancer, Delsorbo. Since you've let those cats out of the bag, would you say you are more silly or serious? More. You had to pick one. More silly or serious? Because you are.
I
you
am
are
more silly, actually.
I was going to say you're sillier than people think. Maybe.
Yes, I am more silly than and most people. When they first get to know me, they think, "Well, he's kind of serious." But once I get to know you, I let it loose, and I'm a silly person by nature.
Yeah, I've noticed that a little bit too. Yeah, I think I'm more serious than people realize typically, because in a lot of public situations with people, I'm trying to lead the thing that needs to happen, and a lot of time it's emotional levity or something like that. But yeah, I'm a serious freakazoid typically when I'm by myself, constantly, reading things no one cares about. So, disc profile. I know you are aware of it and know because we talked about it beforehand, but you're a...
So I am a strong C and D, both of them are high, which is the analytical and then kind of the driver. And they have that adaptive and natural, which is, what are you at work? What are you at, naturally?
Yeah.
I'm the same. I'm analytical and I'm a driver. I'm a finisher type mindset. Once I start something, I'll stay up all kinds of nights to get something done.
Yeah.
I got to see it through.
Yeah. What is that in you? What is that? The follow through to the end to get it done.
Well, you can ask Krista. I sometimes struggle with the starting part, which she's really good at. So we complement each other well. She likes to start stuff, but once if we do a home project,
she's always starting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. But if we do a home project, it's like, okay, let's go to bed. No, I gotta get it done. So I'll be up at 2 a.m. and getting some. This is the way I don't like to leave it not finished.
Yeah, I used to be way more that way. I'm less that way now.
Yeah.
Now I just start stuff and I never finish them. In case you're not aware, don't know what disc profile is, it is the two categories, talking about natural and adaptive. Natural is, there are 4 categories: dominance, influence, steadiness, compliance are the 4 I know of. Does that sound?
It, yeah.
Yeah. Those 4, and it's natural personality, and then work and how you adapt to work. Yeah. So you're high D, high C, and your I and S are low,
non-existent.
The bottom. There's no color there. I'm super high D and I, and then low S and C, and it's same, natural and adapted. Yeah. So we are men of integrity, both places.
Yes,
that's
same
right.
place.
No, it's not.
I am who I am.
The change is actually, we need people who change some. It's not a bad thing. I just wanted to throw people under the bus that I know are adapted differently than natural, who are on staff with us.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you've been at Artisan for 23 years, you said?
Yes.
What have you seen that's changed in Greene County, in the world, in your workplace, over those years of... because that's most of your relatively adult life.
Pretty much most college. All my... I came here right out of school, so...
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Other than everything.
It's...
Because the speed of change in the last couple decades... Crazy.
I don't want to sound like that old man.
Let's go to old fogey land.
In my day.
I remember when I came to school with a typewriter.
That's right.
Which is about true when I got to college. You did?
Yes.
You didn't even have like a word processor or
we had to go to the lab to use a computer.
Yeah.
I typed some papers at the last minute, English papers. And that's what I said. As far as sounding like an old fogey, but I'd say it's harder to find people, just that work ethic mindset. That's what I loved about this area. When I came to work there, was the people are great, and it's, they've got a strong work ethic, and and that's always been our strength of our company and what I've seen in this area. Yeah.
It's harder to find.
But it is harder to find now.
Why do you think that is?
I don't want to get too political, but sometimes when you give too much out easy, it's harder to learn how to work for it. And I grew up, like I said, a son of an immigrant who worked for everything when he came here to support his family. So we were raised almost to a negative at times of work. I talk about that as in our marriage testimony, that work became too big of an idol for me. Yeah. So it can't be a negative.
You're a man. That's a struggle.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest change I've noticed.
Yeah, de-incentivizing of work from a top-down way. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So we've had some feedback from our people
Oh.
out in the interwebs. Thank you very much. Your wife says sarcasm is your love language.
Yes, it is.
I'll try to get him ready, Krista, by talking his love language. What's the funniest mispronunciation of your last name, Mr. Delsorbo?
There's all kinds of them. We've heard.
This is coming from somebody who I know very well, whose first name is constantly mispronounced.
Mine, it's Delsorbo. I've actually got an Arbo, which I'm not sure how they did that.
Just Arbo.
Just
Not
Arbo.
even Adele.
No. And I guess they figured that was my middle name.
Oh.
But
Caradel.
and it's, if you just read it, it's pronounced exactly like it's spelled, but it's difficult. We're the only one in Tennessee.
The only Delsorbo.
As far I checked years ago. Yes.
What does Delsorbo mean? Do you have any idea?
It's some flowering bush.
Oh, yes. Sarcastic, dancing, flowering bush.
Yes.
That's funny. That's awesome.
Which, if you know me, I cannot make anything live that I plant. So that is kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. We have a question from somebody, a request to tell us about your work in the marriage ministry.
Ah, okay.
You mentioned that. I was going to come back around to that.
Yeah. So we, both Chris and I, are involved with the marriage ministry, and we're coaches in the Merge section, which is for premarital, so seriously dating or engaged couples.
Yeah.
So we go through an 8-week session with a small group of couples, and hopefully prepare them well for marriage.
That's great stuff.
Yeah, and we also will help out on re-engage at times and give our marriage testimony, and sometimes being involved as a small group leader there. So.
Yeah, that's a really great ministry. There's Merge, Foundations, Re-engage with various, and Merge is, you said, engaged or seriously dating couples. Foundations is the first 3-ish years of marriage, and then Re-engage is a marriage enrichment for anybody who's been married 3+ years. What have you found has been something you've learned from helping in marriage ministry, or something you've seen in it?
Yeah, I think helping, as you know, teaching or doing anything where you're leading or taking that facilitating role, you see the need in your own life. And that's, one of the things that we took, Krista and I, is, really investing in our marriage. And it's so easy not to do that.
Yeah.
With kids come along.
The business of life, responsibilities.
Yeah. And so, taking the time to, especially when you have small kids, to find that time to go out, have a night alone and date each other.
What was natural, now you have to be intentional.
You have to be very intentional about it. And, that was a struggle for us at times. And I think it's something we're really investing in now. And it really has helped as we become, moving towards empty nesting.
Yes.
Because, we are on mission together now. It's taking beyond just focusing on our marriage, but really going past that, and how do we serve together, and how do we be on mission together to grow the kingdom. So that's been something I've taken from it, and hopefully along the way too, we're helping people see that's the purpose of marriage, more so than just having a good marriage,
right,
but to use that be a
this relationship, is a fruit-bearing, kingdom-serving kind of thing, beyond just your home. And your kids,
Yep.
which are still there.
Yep.
You don't stop parenting.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I've noticed that with a number of folks who work in our marriage ministry, it's a piece of their ongoing ministry, and many of them are coming out of kids being in the home, going into empty nest, and it is the kind of thing where it used to just all be natural and easy. Kids come along, that's the focus. Work, career, and the marriage is like the last thing in that order of priorities. You have to be intentional about it.
Yes.
That's one of the things that's really helpful about doing something like Reengage, because it forces you to do that in ways that are helpful. And one thing I noticed for us is it helps us regain a sense of we're a team, which we used to say a lot early on. And then just, the busyness and responsibilities of the day-to-day, we're still a team, but it doesn't always feel like it when what was natural and needs to be intentional is just sort of, who's got time to be intentional when you're going from dawn to dusk, and you're dead at the end of the day.
Well, and you get beyond we just don't have anything in common. Well, we don't have to have all our interests in common. We have
my interests, my wife's interests, not always the same.
Not always the same, but we have a common purpose, and we have a common, and that's the piece that I think hopefully we're instilling and encouraging in other couples as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great work in marriage ministry. In your work at Artisan, in your serving at church, other contexts maybe you've been in, whether you've been a follower or a leader in whatever contexts, what do you think makes for good leadership? And then I think I have a couple of follow-up questions about that probably too. But in what you've seen, I mean, you're an elder. You're a part of our leadership. In your experience, in all those contexts, what makes for a good leader?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because it's something, I think even at work or at church or really every area, I've often ended up in leadership roles, and it's always a question of how do I do that well, and I think the servant leadership mindset is where I tend to lean towards, is how do I lead through acts of service, and showing people that they're of value and importance
to the organization, to the team, work, yeah.
And that's often, I find it's funny, I find it easier in some areas where I lead, and in others I tend to gravitate, like at work where I was not a leader at all times of my career. I was, not in a clear leadership role, and then grew into those roles. And so I can catch myself falling back into the doer mentality, rather than not.
Meaning what?
Trying to do for them rather than allow them to learn and grow and serve.
Supporting equipping their doing.
And so it's something I continue to learn.
Yeah. I think we all in leadership end up often fighting against becoming the doer again. It depends on where you're at in all of that. But, you hear a lot of people say, it's just easy for me to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, that's
at times. And then you also feel like if I ask someone else to do something that I'm not also doing, then why should they ever listen to me or do what they need to be doing and I'm helping them need to do? Like we'll often say things sometimes on staff like, we're picking up brooms too.
Yeah.
When we went multi-site, I stopped having to pick up some brooms, big time. And that was a real difficult, it still is for me, a difficult transition. I try to do a lot of things that I probably shouldn't be doing. But what I've noticed, and what you said made me think of this, oftentimes, if I'm not thinking about how to help people do what they're equipped and gifted to do, and I'm doing things instead of them, instead of equipping them to do it, that's keeping them from ministry or serving or doing their job well. Yeah, I found that to be a struggle for me.
Yeah, so I'm trying to learn how to think more, what do they need to do their job well, and how do I supply that, rather than be the doer or just come alongside and do it with them. Yeah. And that was my go-to early on, and so I'm learning more.
Well, you are a male.
Yeah. So I'm learning more how do I give them what they need
and how do you get there? How do you get to those answers? Well, what have you found? Because I think for me, I'll ask, hey, what do you need, or how can I help, or but what do you see are strategies for that you employ?
Well, a lot of it is spending the time, with them, talking with them, asking them what they need. But a lot of times that people don't always know what they need yet, because they're learning their role and they're learning what to do. So, if you have been involved or had done those type of roles before, you kind of have an idea of what they want. So you kind of try to guide the discussion and maybe help suggest some ideas of things they could, and then have them come back. And basically come back with the same suggestions you gave them, possibly. but at least they start to understand that that's what I need to do my job, and or to do the task that I'm being given. So
you mentioned the servant leader thing earlier. Your wife says servant leadership is how Carl leads our family.
Well,
that's nice. Come on, Krista, tell us something.
Yeah, she's being nice.
Embarrassing. Here's a good question from someone related to you. What made you come to FCC? How'd you get here?
Yeah, we came, when we moved here, we actually went to Grace Fellowship Church in Johnson City for a good, probably almost 20 years.
I was going to say, I thought it was 20-ish. Yeah.
And when we first moved here, we could not find that small group-based church that, and so that was something we were interested in, good kids men, obviously, because we were looking at starting a family. And so we went there, but after 20 years, a lot of distance, and one of the things I saw, Krista saw it first, but it took me a little longer, was we just weren't engaging in the body like we needed to, and after a few years of wrestling with that, of not wanting to change, God really got a hold of me and said, okay, we gotta do something different. And so we really liked the worship one, serve one mentality of how do we get engaged and involved in serving. And so that's what we did 3 years ago. We came here, and I think within a month we were, I was on the guest services team.
You were worshiping and serving.
Yeah.
Yes,
and
pretty
then
quickly.
Within a month after that, I think I was a service leader.
Yeah, I was going to say.
With a month after that.
Engineering things on Sunday mornings and on the guest team.
Yeah. So, and then we went through Next Steps. The first time I think we had Next Steps, that first go around. And it just went from there. So I think it was the serve, and both our boys went to the youth here before that. So that was, and we actually knew more people at First Christian than we did at Grace that we went to for
relative
20 years.
To the whole.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure that's true.
Yeah.
It'd almost be hard for it not to be true. Yeah, Grace is a great church. Yeah. Cool. Another question here. What is one thing current Carl wished he could tell younger Carl? I think this person just called you old.
Yeah, he probably
You're
did.
old enough to have the perspective to tell younger Carl stuff he should have heard or been aware of.
Oh, there's so many things. I would probably go back to what I said with the work issue is,
yeah.
and the funny thing was I knew that from the get-go that was
We all did.
that was my bent, was
Yes.
to be,
For those of us who are workaholics. Yeah.
to overdo it.
Yeah.
And looking back, there's years that I said I would not do those, take away from family, from church, from really things that were important, and I did, and
Yeah.
I wish I could go back and kind of shake that younger Carl a bit. But
Why do you think? Why do you think for you is workaholism the right word for it? What's the word for that for you?
yeah, I think I don't know if I would even call it that in the sense that I don't know that I find my identity through work. I think it was more a sense of pride of something I could do well in and did do well in.
Okay.
And it became that idol of elevating self from a sense of pride.
So
achievement. That was
feeding you.
Yeah, I'm not a person that I'm terrible. I try very hard to get better at applauding others and patting people on the back, because I'm just someone that doesn't need that from others.
So you're not a natural encourager of others in that sense.
No, I'm not. And so because I don't need it, when I say I don't need it, it's not always nice to hear, but
hey, you're doing a great job in this interview.
Oh, thank you. But I get a lot of that sense of value, pride out of accomplishment,
of
doing it. Yeah, meeting that goal, meeting that
yeah.
And so I think that's where that came from. Not so much just to work, but to find that value there.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that a man thing?
I don't know if it's a man-only thing, but I think it's probably more. You see that more in men. I think how we
with
were
the work,
raised.
with
yeah.
the what I produce, what I do thing.
Yeah, and I think we're at least in my generation. I just call myself old. We're supposed to be the provider, and you see that as this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there's at least in our generation. I'll include you in.
You graduated 90.
From where?
From college?
95.
95? Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much the same age.
Yeah. So we did have a couple good questions here. What's the Carlitarian diet?
So
you have your own diet?
Yes. Whatever Carl likes, Carl eats. That's pretty simple. Which is not much. So I am.
Are you a boring eater?
I am notoriously
picky?
I am extremely picky. Like
really,
the best thing that ever was invented in my mind was the divided plate. So
meaning you don't want your food to touch.
I don't want food.
Ooh, now we're getting to the inner Carl.
Yes, I don't know why.
I'm with you. I don't like them touching. I don't want it to touch.
It's both a taste and a texture thing for
texture,
me.
Yes.
Both. And so I try all kinds of stuff, and I just don't like it. And so I have very few things. It really was hard for Krista when we first were married, because she thought she was a bad cook, and she is not. She is a great cook, but I'm just a bad eater. So.
That's a good line. She's a good cook. I'm a bad eater.
I'm
a bad eater in a sense too. I don't know if it's the same way, but I'm super boring and picky, and I don't. I mean, you said you've tried lots of different foods, or will. I don't want to try different foods. I just want the same old boring things. Don't give me something new.
Well, I've traveled, with work and stuff, and so you
end up
you kind of have to eat it,
yeah.
And 7 courses of tofu is not my thing.
1 course of tofu is not my thing.
So it's a pretty boring meal plan for me. But.
So the Carlitarian is whatever you want, but it's boring and you're picky?
Well, no, I don't consider it boring. I mean, I'm a meat and potatoes guy. I'm not,
Absolutely.
That grilled meat and potatoes, very few vegetables. but Krista likes vegetables, so we buy one plate and split it.
Cool. Another question says, how have you grown spiritually since coming to FCC?
That's a great question. I'd say in a lot of different ways. I think one of the ways is elevating the spiritual leadership role in the family. Taking that more seriously, of being more intentional.
Yeah.
And still struggle at times with that, but I think it's one area that I've really tried to focus on and grow. Another area that Krista and I have talked about, I wanted to really start moving more is really spend more time in prayer and grow that prayer life beyond praying for the needs of things, but really more for growth and for advancing God's kingdom and more leaning towards that. But so those are the areas that where I have grown and where I want to continue to grow.
Yeah. Good stuff. This is a good question here. Growing faith without seeing it modeled by your family is hard. Who have you looked to for influence as you've matured in your faith?
Yeah, that's...
Who have been some influences for you in your faith? Other than my amazing preaching. Let's just assume that.
Well, that's assumed, right? Yeah. Through the years, God gives you different people. In college, I had a good group of guys, and we still stay in touch.
Was that through IV?
Yeah. But we were all roommates at one point, and challenge each other, hold each other accountable, do all those. We dug in deep on.
Every issue. All the theological things till 2 a.m. in the morning.
It was great. But then, past that, through the years, we've had different small groups where we've had different men, different, and too many to name, really, as to go through.
The normal, regular programs and processes of InterVarsity, church, those kinds of settings.
Yeah, and definitely, like I said, a small group. And that's why we were interested in finding that when we first got here, and that's what we're also help in that area as far as coaching on life groups, because we see that as extremely important, that we come together as a body, not just on Sundays, but also through the week, and do life together and hold each other accountable, encourage one another, pray for one another. And so it's through all those, avenues. Some of the current guys, elders, and that have become really good friends with Mark Liebert and Chuck. I've known both of them for a long time. And so there's all.
And now you're getting to know Mike better than
Mike's
you knew him.
I get to know Mike at work too. So.
Yeah. All right, let's rapid fire a few things here. What was a difficult challenge in life you've had to overcome? And how to make you stronger?
Oh, that one's rapid fire. That's hard to rapid fire.
That's right. We're going to serious things now that are rapid fire here.
That one is, you would hear again if you came to Reengage, plug for Reengage. But for marriage testimony was, I was a child that experienced with divorce, and my parents, multiple divorces, and then they ended up back together.
Really?
Yeah, in the end, and they've been married for, I don't even know how many years now, 30, 40 years now.
Wow, that's great. Still a difficult challenge.
Still a difficult challenge. So I went to 8 different schools before high school.
Dude.
So
I'm tracking up. Me too. Same kind of thing.
So that was a difficult, I became very independent because of that.
Okay.
And that's been part of my struggle as well, is how do I allow others in? Because I became, I got to take care of myself, and I got to also take care of my family during.
How do you think that experience, I mean, you talked a little bit there about what you've learned from it and how you've had to grow from it. How has this made you stronger, that kind of situation?
Stronger. I mean, I think the strength side of that is Krista will often say I'm the rock of the family. I weather things well. I can deal with issues, and I can be there to help, encourage, do all those things, even in the midst of a lot of stuff going on. So I think that's been a strength of mine, that God's given me through that.
Yeah. That answers the next question, which was, how did you see God working through that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a part of who you've become now, and a way that is foundational for your family. Yeah. What are you seeing and learning because of COVID?
Well, I think we've talked about this a lot in various meetings. But it's the need to come together as a body. Being an introvert, the first few weeks, it's kind of like, whew, at home, it's kind of like, ooh, this is not.
You
that
see
bad.
all those social media posts and memes about, I was made for this.
Yeah.
Nobody's posting that online now.
No.
Mass isolation is real.
Yeah, after a few weeks, you start saying, no, I miss being around, and we need it. And and I think that the whole mindset of I understand the concerns and all that.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But in the end, our spiritual health is more important to me than worrying about the physical. And coming together is very important for us as a body. So
yeah, definitely. I think that's a big lesson people are going to continue to learn, and that can be a lesson that we learn even while we take seriously the idea that this is obviously real and a problem. Mm-hmm. They're not mutually exclusive. What is one of the largest lessons you've learned from being a parent?
That you're never fully equipped to do the job.
That's for sure.
And that you need to depend on God. And that's, I depended on myself way too much during a lot of those years of trying to, I need to know how to do this. I'm the father, and I should have the answers. And, you're not equipped. You need God to guide you through that and give you the strength and the wisdom and discernment and all that, and not rely on self.
Yeah, good stuff. What is God currently teaching you?
I think it goes back to what I was saying with prayer life is just that dependency on Him. And COVID is, I think, stir that too. It's just
presses on that issue.
Yeah, just even more so is how do I continue to rely and lean and depend on Him more and more, rather than trying to do it myself. And that's that independence piece that wants to pop up. Yeah. But how do I continue to grow in that way and just have Him guide my steps rather than me try to set my own path.
Yeah. Last question. What are you excited or encouraged about?
There's a lot to be excited about. The marriage ministry is exciting for me. Just to be able to give back to those young couples and they're just starting that journey is really exciting. I think the multi-site piece is very exciting. And what's exciting to me is that everything that I'm mentioning is more kingdom work mindset, which 5-10 years ago, I don't know that that would have been that answer.
For you?
For me.
Yeah.
And where was I putting my efforts and my thoughts and my energy into? And so the multi-site and the whole being part of Afton and seeing that take off and grow and and think about the future. I think
Cool.
I think that's exciting.
Absolutely. Fun facts. Carl had changed way more diapers than I had when we got married.
Mm-hmm.
He cleans a better bathroom than anyone on the planet.
Thanks to my mom.
However, that bathroom cleaning
That doesn't happen very often anymore.
and it takes the time that your wife can clean the entire rest of the house. When you clean the one bathroom, she's got everything else in the same amount of time. I'm that way.
Yes.
If I get going on something like that,
Yeah, we're
the
talking about
ADHD
toothbrush,
freakazoid.
take off the escutcheon plate. The little, it's that detailed.
You have a problem, my
Yes,
man.
I do.
You have a problem.
Yes, I
Got to
do.
see that through to the end.
I have lots of problems.
That's great. Well, thanks for joining us. Good stuff. Thanks for joining us for Coffee Convos, y'all. See you next week.